Dear students, it is the second video of week 4 and we are learning the disputes Pakistan had to face or the problem Pakistan had to face soon after the partition. And this time we are learning about canal water disputes. Dear students, in the first video we came to know that the Radcliffe Award, the boundary commission which was constituted by British to decide the areas to be included in Pakistan and to be areas included in India, they appeared very unjust and they intensely included certain areas in Bengal and especially in Punjab to give advantage to the Indians taking over control over water and the territories, especially the dispute of Kashmir. The two problems that Pakistan is still struggling and has fought several times and which are still sovereign, and especially in 2022 when both Pakistan and India are the atomic powers and still they are enlightening with enrage about this issue, and it is Kashmir and the water. People say either Kashmir or either the water dispute may uprise both the countries to meet another clash. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save all such kind of clashes and bring prosperity to this region. But they are the very obvious points. ये बहुत मुमकिन हद तक इसके एहतमाल है, यानी चांस है कि अल्लाह ना करे ऐसा हो जाए. And water dispute and Kashmir both are the similar thing, because all the water resources and reserves or reservoirs, they are there in Kashmir, Himalaya and Karakoram. Fine. One of the major problems that originated out of the unjust partition is the water canal dispute. The irrigation system of Indus Basin is a very developed system, and this system was designed by British. But in the unjust partition, the heads of the three rivers Satluj, Ravi, Beas and many other headworks were given to India. And resultantly, in the end of 1947, the upper two rivers, Jhelum and Chenab, they were taken over by India, by force took control. And in April 1948, India cut the water supplies in the canal irrigating the area near Lahore, what the canal system, and they supplied the extra water into the cut the supply, they stopped providing water, and resultantly the vast crops, especially the wheat crops, were affected in Lahore and other region, and it brought food crisis in Pakistan. Well, and finally, there were a war over this, and solution came when the World Bank officials tried to solve this problem, and then the president of the World Bank he offered the mitigation. They invited both the envoys of Pakistan and India. They hold meetings and they agreed that the three upper rivers like Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, they will be exclusively for Pakistan and India won't control them. And where are the other rivers like Ravi, Satluj, Jhelum, and Beas, they'll remain in the control of India. And this is called Indus Water Treaty. This Indus Water Treaty was signed in the time of Ayub Khan, and it was a very positive impact on the economy of Pakistan and especially on India also. But still, there are so many flaws in this treaty that India is obviously violating the exclusive right of Pakistan over the three waters, and they are building different kind of dams to cut down the water flow into Pakistan. And Pakistan also has raised voice on the international forum, like in the international courts of justice. But still, these things have to be done mainly by both the countries. So, canal water dispute is a very major dispute, and there is always a problem, especially when the in the monsoon, Indian dams and rivers and canals, when overloaded or brimmed with water, they when they open the doors of water and the water spillways to Pakistan and a larger area of Pakistan often uh, come under the heavy floods. Well, students, you understood that water dispute is a very major dispute, and economy of both the countries from food and food security depends on the waters. Okay, ji. Next, administrative problems. You know that Pakistan was a newly born state, number one. Secondly, Muslims were not in large number. They mean Muslims, most of the Muslims were not trained. They had quite less experience of the government departments and others because British didn't promote the Muslim. Rather, the Hindus were controlling the main administrative post. Most of the government functionaries and senior officers serving in army were Hindus who migrated to India after the partition. Clear? And the officers left with Pakistan were new and quite little experienced, and they didn't have any strong experience of office and management and technicalities. Non availability of the Muslim army officers. The British soldiers were employed due to the non availability of the Muslim army officers. This is a very important point that Muslims, right from the beginning, didn't like to join British army, and then the British had to take high officials from British and the lower fighters spy from India. And this problem were very severe that at the time of partition, Muslim officers were not that much to take control of the vast army. Therefore, the British officers were hired and paid to work with, and this also came in, and Pakistan had to pay the price in Kashmir also. तो इसका नतीजा पाकिस्तान को कश्मीर में पे करना पड़ा. High posts were given to Britishes. The most of the high executive officers, senior bureaucracy, the governors, chief secretaries, and the secretaries, including the army chiefs, were Englishmen. And they had nothing to do with this. Okay? The issue of Kashmir. Non Pakistani officers created enormous problems. For example, Qaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah asked the commander in chief of that time to move the forces to Kashmir. He delayed and even declined to obey the orders. And what happened? That the Indian army came, they swiftly built roads, they took control over the Kashmir, and they took control over most of the areas, and this came to be quite, I mean, abruptly, whereas Pakistan army's response of that time under the British was very slow. Yes, the little area we have today here, Azad Kashmir, is the effort of the locals, local freedom fighters, and especially the tribal area people who had the will, and they fought a war, and then Pakistan army obviously helped out, and they could take control of certain areas. Administer problem two, the capital of Pakistan. The city of Karachi was designated as the capital of the newly born state. Okay, and there were and lacked the most essential facilities required for the running of the government. The very first thing was the capital of Pakistan. There were three options for Pakistan, either to call Dhaka, second Lahore, or Karachi. But in haphazard, Karachi was called the capital of Pakistan, and it was really not a good choice from many ways. Number one, Karachi was far away from the entire countries, entire entire provinces. For example, it was quite far away from the Bengal. Number two, it was quite away from Punjab and other provinces. Secondly, it was prone to the sea. Any attack could be fatal for all the government departments. And there were not many more facilities available. But this allegation may be something wrong, because Karachi was the only developed city which had most of the facilities. But maybe all the cities at that time in 1947 were almost at the same rank. Maybe Karachi had some more advantages than the other cities. Temporary settlements of the offices. The offices were set up in military barracks and tents. The Indian government withheld Pakistan's share of stationery items and office equipment. Even paper was not available for the office use. Okay, I mean, the offices were established in the military barracks. Yes, military barracks, were on open space, and initially they started functioning their country operations. The absence of records. The extremist Hindus spoiled the office records when it was being transferred to Pakistan from India after the partition. Record matters a lot, and resultantly, the shift in the government records and transfer of the lands and other thing. The Hindu functionaries spoiled the office record before leaving Pakistan. I mean, they did two things. One, those who were working here, they spoiled the record of here. And those who were there and the record was being transferred from India to Pakistan, they spoiled it. The problems in reshuffling or transportation. India refused. You know that India didn't give Pakistan their due share in domestic resources, in planes, in offices, stationery, trained people. I mean, they left Pakistan alone in the wilderness of troubles. India refused to rent out its planes for airlifting the officials who had opted for Pakistan. Therefore, the government of Pakistan hired British planes for airlifting the record and the personnel. And you understand this, that areas on which Pakistan is now was not that developed area. All the government machinery, infrastructures, records, talented people, buildings, factories, mills, and everything was in India. The territories included in India. And we learned it that intentionally the British didn't give the control of those. For example, Kolkata was not handed over to the Muslims because it was really a developed city, and British had invested, or the people had invested a lot over there. That was a very important port, just like fine Karachi, they were not given to Pakistan. So these are the issues that most of our administrative problems, which later on Pakistan had to face, were inherited. And everywhere you find the ill intentions of the opposition, and they didn't want, and they said that they were waiting the Pakistan to be reconnecting to India, but with the grace of Almighty Allah and with the extraordinary belief and commitment of the earliest people of Pakistan, Pakistan just not survived, but it also became economically well. Pakistan achieved a say in the world. Fine. Students, move next. Division of the military assets. You know that India is a larger subcontinent. India, undivided, united India was a larger, quite a large country, and it owned a huge military, and they had extraordinary developed military assets. And the British fought and ruled the world on the power of Indian resources. I mean, before British had taken control of India, British used to be a poor country that was not that strong as compared to Turkey and other countries in terms of wealth. But when they took control, they started trading. They devised exploited policies. They framed their army. They annexed trade, and in days, British came out to be a very powerful country. And in every nook and corner, there were military installations, barracks, and much more. The first two world wars, India British won. That was mostly on the shoulders of the India. But when Pakistan was divided, the military assets were also not handed over to Pakistan. And the apprehension was that these may not might these be used against India or somehow. Liaquat Ali Khan demanded that a transparent formula for the division of the armed forces and their assets. And in July 1947, it was decided that the Indian Army would be, British Army, Indian British Army will be divided into two parts, one for India and one for the Pakistan. And the officers were given choice. Whosoever they wished to join, they could. Okay. Defense Committee. A defense committee under the leadership of Marshal Kinlick transform the implementation of the scheme. I mean, a defense committee was formed, and this defense committee had was given the task to divide the to calculate the military assets and divide uh, efficiently and justly. But the efforts of this defense committee went in vain. I mean, uh, because of the conspiracies of Hindus and the pressures of the high dignitaries, this defense committee stopped working and handed over all the military equipments to India and asked both Pakistan and Indian leaders to sit together and decide the share. This was really a problem. And we find this thing, dear students, we find this thing that the British left Pakistan in often in really strange situation. Okay. Now move to the division of forces and ordnance. Ordnance mean asla, army. The Indian government gave Pakistan only a small part of its share in the military assets. Even it was not working condition and was badly mutilated. That Indian government didn't give Pakistan its due share. And whatever they handed over to Pakistani government was outdated, deteriorated, and was not in the working position. And that is also a major reason that why could Pakistan army couldn't make that much achievements, because of the lack of the equipment. And same lack of equipment in army, air force and navy was created a huge gap. Pakistan was utterly incompatible in terms of the army and ordnance resources. And that was the reason that Khan Liaquat Ali Khan moved to America and demanded the equipment and other assistance so that Pakistan may safeguard itself against any campaign or any attack against India. And it came really true when in 1947, 1948, the wars, it showed that to moving towards America and demanding for the equipment is very genuine demand of the day. Air Force. Air Force. The aircraft and ships sent to Pakistan were not in working condition. Especially the aircraft, they were very precious, and the British didn't give any strong. Secondly, the well maintained air bases were there in India. Highly qualified people were left in India, and Pakistan simply got few bases and one place or training place like Risalpur and KPK. Fine. I mean, everything was in complete chaos. Ordnance factories. At the time of partition, there were 16 ordnance factories in the subcontinent, but they all went to Indian share. Thus, Pakistan started its new life with a small military force and little resources. Yes, later on, the people of Pakistan established war industry, ordnance factories, Texla, fine, and then in Kamra, Mirage, they built factories. These are all the commitments of the true leaders. Apart from the difference of opinion, all the people, most of the people of that type, be they belonged to military background or were they 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 were the politicians, parliamentarians, they were all committed, and they made huge efforts to establish the national assets, and that is a reason that we are still surviving, alhamdulillah, against all the odds, all the hardships Pakistan come across are solved. I think it's enough for this video. Thank you very much.